Okay, we've got a minute to go. How you going, guys? It's John Lark here. You're all very welcome this evening for tonight's webinar. I'm just going to give you another minute and then we'll be kicking off dead on time. If you joined us live on the webinar page, direct through Sphere Fitness, there is a link which you can click on to get a few more interactive actions like questions and answers and live functions, etc. But if you want to hang around on there, that's fine, and watch in real time. That's cool too. Just to show you I'm actually real, just ping up with it. So here I am. Give me a big wave. I hope you're doing all right. You won't be looking at my ugly mug for very long, so hopefully we'll get some really class information up tonight, and and you have some great takeaways. So let's take this off here a second. Okay, so that's sorry, just a bit of a techie issue there. Let's get the information up and get. We've got a few slides to get through tonight, but ultimately I want to make sure it's as useful as possible. So what I'll be doing as well, I'll be checking back and forth with the questions every now and then, just when we have a stop for a breather. And so if you want any questions, just answer them in the Google Hangout box, and I'll do my best. So welcome, good evening. How you doing? I'm John Lark, well, self-proclaimed health and fitness expert, but I've been doing this a good while now, 15 years. And as you'll see, I've been through a bit of a journey myself, and I want to just touch on a bit of a story there. So housekeeping, we just, as I say, this is obviously fraught with technical difficulties, but I try my best to keep them down to a minimum. There is a question and answer box live that you can interact with and ask questions. If not, you can email me directly at the email address there. That will get straight through to my email. I will be checking them and doing my best to answer them at the end of the session. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping, and of course any other questions as well, they are more than welcome. I have there's also a form which if you want to request more information about what I do, what we do, then again you're more than welcome, no pressure. It's there really for your information. So hopefully the audio levels are okay. We'll check and ready to go. And as I say, there's a social section, interact, where we can get cracking. So who am I and what are we here for today? Hopefully we're here for a good few answers to common problems that I've heard time and time again over the years. So we'll go over them a good bit there. So our agenda is we're just going to give a quick story about me and how I can help you, and particularly my journey from where I came from. Hopefully it shed some light on that. I am real. I didn't come running out my mum lifting weights and running and being obsessed about exercise, which I'm not, by the way. I just use it as a tool to facilitate my life and help myself feel better, and hopefully be an inspiration for others. I'm going to share with you, this is going to be some really cool stuff, the 7 steps to fat loss success. And this is a real kind of 50,000 foot view of fat loss. And most people get bogged down in the microscopic details that they lose sight of the bigger picture here. And it really is a bigger picture that must be taken into account if you want to succeed. And I'll be taking you through step by step that process, which has led to so many real world examples of the results. Also, as I say, it's a great opportunity to get some additional help if you want. Just fill out the form, and we'll help on the phone and hopefully help you in some form or another. And then we'll leave for a bit of a question answer at the end. So I'll give you a quick rundown on my personal story. Basically, I'm a former fat athlete. That's a fat athlete, for anyone who doesn't know, turned health and fitness specialist. That's me. Going back a good few years when I had a bit of hair as well. Now, at that point in time, just to give you a brief rundown, I was training probably twice a day, I would say 5 days a week. So that's 10 units of training a week, which amounts to probably about between 8 and 10 hours. And I was about 26% body fat, and I was also riddled with chronic inflammatory conditions of a good few of my joints, most of them in particular, elbows, ankles, knees. You know, I was in a lot of pain, and but that didn't stop me doing what I do. I just put it down to the fact that I was playing a high level of rugby, which I did. You know, I played at international level, at youth age group, and also played good level club rugby. So you know, fatly is probably an accurate label, really. But I was pretty sick. I wasn't very healthy at all, and so it kind of dawned on me one day when, you know, I was just riddled with these conditions. I couldn't shake, no matter what I was doing. You know, physiotherapies, laser, you know, inflammatory or steroid inflammatories, you name it, I tried it. But what dawned on me is I was missing, you know, it was hidden in plain view. Basically, I'd missed the bigger picture. I missed the fact that my health was suffering, and yet I was poisoning my body basically with the wrong food choices, far too many carbohydrates. Even though I was doing 8-10 hours of training a week, probably why I was that size. You know, and a history of diabetes in the family. It goes back both my immediate generation and another generation. And it really dawned on me that perhaps I needed to shake things up a bit and look at what I was eating and what I was drinking. And I did. And as a result, I dropped, I was in that about 112 kilograms. I dropped down to about 90 kilograms, where I sit comfortably now, and I'm sitting between sort of 10 and 12% body fat, going down from 26%. And that was without really any fat loss program. I was just getting healthier and thinking a little bit more positive about my body, getting it to work for me. And it was amazing how quickly all those little niggles cleaned up and removed themselves. And I, you know, at that time I was coaching, but I was coaching more of kind of from an athletic perspective. But as it dawned on me, you know, I could share my story. I could help other people in the same position. You know, get them off this whole counting calories and counting points, even though calories are important. But for most people to start with, they just need to get better nutrition choices. And that's where I you know, I wanted to help. So got the appropriate qualifications, mentored and interned, and still do with some of the world's best, and they still are. I mean, I still look up to them. I still admire and respect what they do, you know, and rack their brains, because, you know, at the end of the day, we never have the full answer. The human organism is far too complex. As you see, it's not quite as simple as just eat less and do more, as the idiots would proclaim, you know, ram down your throat. So that's me. Where I'm at the moment, well, I'm the owner of 2 facilities, one based in Maynooth, County Kildare in Ireland. I'm owner of another facility based in Dublin city centre. I've consulted with the likes of Google, Eon, IBM, both here in Ireland, in the UK, and across Europe, particularly in Switzerland. We did a stint there with corporate health and wellbeing programs in Google Zurich. So I've worked with it. I'm not trying to impress on you or anything, but I'm just saying that, you know, I've worked. I've got a very good sample size, and as you can see, there's a good few of our results that we've had, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Even if you can call it that, because they're visual transformations, right? But the ones that impress on me the most, the ones that dramatically change their lives, and, you know, and really harness the power of transformation, both internally and externally. They feel better. They grasp the concept of performing better, and yeah, I mean, their body reflects that. So this here is the 7 key steps I want to outline. So let's just take a little breather, just check the emails coming in. There's 1 or 2. Let's check as well. Okay. All right, back in the presentation there. So the 7 steps. What we got is 7 steps Now, this is it, obviously in order as well. So, as I say, if you have any questions about these, please stop me, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, first of all, we look at our mindset and skill set. We've got to find out why. What I mean by that in a nutshell is, why are you making the change? Why is your health important to you? For me, it's important because I want to be a leader. I want to inspire other people. So if I'm walking around with a big Ned Kelly on me, munching on donuts and 15 cups of coffee with 10 sugars in each, it's not exactly going to inspire others. It's not going to inspire my family. It's not going to inspire my kids. I want them to lead a life of health and prosperity and performance. And, the buck starts with me. So as I say, I'm walking around tired, ratty, stressed out, strung out, and fat, then it's going to have a knock-on effect. And studies have shown that one obese parent can dramatically increase the child's chances of becoming obese, and two obese parents it's almost a dead cert. So just something to bear in mind on that front. We've got to look at the stress as well. When you're stressed, you have to be very, very careful and mindful how much stress you can actually then add on by changing a whole lot of stuff or imposing yourself in some form of stressful gym routine. And that's what most people do. They go to the gym to punish themselves, which is just the wrong thing to do. You should be going to improve yourself. And then we look at sleep as well. We all know what we're like after about 4 or 5 hours of sleep or broken sleep. You've got young kids, again, it's a stressor. And we want to be very, very mindful that those soldiers, particularly the top 3, are lined up before you even look at, say, exercise, which comes later down the line. And we look at nutrition and eating right and making sure that we're fueling our bodies with the right stuff. So then we can get the most out of what we do in point 5, which is exercise or training. And then we look at recovery. How are we recovering? Are we decompressing? Are we de-stressing? Are we allowing our bodies to recover from not just the stress of maybe an exercise routine, but stresses of life? And then lastly, how consistent are we in its application? Is this just a flipping flash in the pan approach where 1 week in, 1 week out, 1 week in, the consistency of application will trump anyone's efforts, will trump any fad. It will trump any exercise regime which you think is the best. The best regime is the one you can stick to, full stop. So let's just take these apart and have a look at each one. So your mindset and your thoughts and beliefs will trump any fancy eating or exercise plan. Ultimately, you need to peel back the layers of onion. You need to find and discover why, say, you want to lose a bit of weight. Why is it? Why is that important to you? Well, if I sat someone down for a consultation, we do a bit of probing. Why is that weight loss important to you? Well, I want to feel better in my clothes. Okay, well, why is feeling better in your clothes important to you? Well, I'm just feeling a bit, every time I go to the shops, I have to buy a size larger. It's kind of bothering me now. And my husband says, okay, so there's your why. You can start to see how important. So it's not just you want to lose weight. It's because your partner has said something to you which has hurt you, or a throwaway comment struck a deepened chord. You want to have a better relationship with them. You want them to make you feel, just like when you first met, you felt all sexy when you're going out and you dressed up and you felt good about yourself. Well, that's you want to. Some people they want to get that back, and so that's the why. That's what's going to drive you and give you that motivation when things are sort of piled against you. That's the why that means you drive to the gym rather than drive straight home, or go out for a run for 20 minutes rather than sit on your backside and watch Corrie repeats. The thoughts and beliefs will trump any fancy eating. And, if you're feeling good about yourself, well, that's an awesome place to start, and you will get results like there's no tomorrow. Guarantee it. The people who lack self-esteem, confidence, well, you need a bit more help, but it's going to take a little bit longer, and maybe you should, read inspirational quotes, read inspirational texts and literature. Start your day with just by feeding the success dog. I mean, some of the stuff, if I feel like I'm struggling mentally with, positive thinking or stinky thinking, as I call it, I get up a little bit early and I write a little gratitude journal, about side of a page of A5. And that just puts me in the right frame of mind to then go on and actually destroy the day with positive, successful outcomes. and it really does work. So try it if you feel that your thoughts and beliefs are working against you. Which leads us neatly on to stress, because it kind of ties in with one another, really. I mean, we are absolutely bombarded with stress. I mean, we have 100% more stress than our grandfathers certainly did. But there's sources, as you can see from the diagram, the sources of stress are absolutely bombarding us. And so we really have to think about it before we add into more stress. And as you can see, not only you've got those psychological stresses, occupational burnout, unhappy with your job, illness, divorce, death of a loved one, which are real tough stuff, tough stresses. But we also have the stuff which we're not so mindful about. Radiation, sitting with an iPhone next to your head. Now, we don't know the long-term consequence of it, but we have a fair idea that it's not going to do you too much good. Air and water pollution, the fluoride in our water, which Ireland still insists on doing, our air pollution, our diet, the preservatives and additives that we add to our food, the over-the-counter and prescription drugs that plague our bodies systemically, and the stress that we just mentioned, infections, parasitic infections, bacterial infections, fungal infections, they all place an additional stress on the gut, on the system, behavior and lifestyle as well, a sedentary behavior, which we're designed not to have. We used to move far more than we do now, and are genetically coded to do so as well. It's all going to have a detrimental effect on our internal chemical environment. So inflammation, exaggeration of these chronic lifestyle diseases like metabolic disorders, cancers, inflammatory conditions, which come out of nowhere, but basically they are our genes expressing themselves as a direct result of our environment pulling the trigger. So we have to then be mindful about, okay, well, if I have all this coming on, if I'm exposed to high level of radiation, my idea of drinking water is 14 cups of coffee, my diet is out of a packet most of the time, I'm kind of hooked on popping over-the-counter painkillers. I'm under a lot of stress at the moment. My father's sick. My relationships isn't the best. I've got, my gut is not the greatest either. I think I've gas after everything I eat, and behavior and lifestyle, and I literally go from the car to my office to home. Well, then adding on a very, very intense exercise program probably isn't the best thing to do, because as you can see, it's more stress with more stress. And what does that equal to? Breakdown. With the right amount of stress, you can get an awesome response from the body. Take, for instance, sunlight is a form of stress. It's a form of radiation stress. But you get a right amount, you're going to get a lift. You're going to get a boost. You're going to get that feeling, like, when you go to the south of France or Spain and you just feel incredible with a bit of sun on your back. But if you get too much, you get burnt. And hopefully none of us have been there, but it can be pretty painful. And the same with exercise. You get the right amount of exercise, you're going to get a real lift from it, and it's going to do you a whole world of good. You get the wrong amount, it's going to break you down further and put you in the gutter. So very, really, really, really important to be mindful. So that's stress. So how much do you have, and why is that important? So then that leads on to sleep, really, because if we have as you can imagine, you have poor sleep, our stress then becomes even more pronounced. And this is the sleep cycle. And as you can see, there's pretty much 5 stages. But if you're going to bed and you're only getting sort of 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you're not really hitting all 5 stages of sleep, which can really lead to pretty bad conditions. It can lead to, short term, if how you feel after a day of not sleeping, you start craving carbohydrates later on in the day. It's crazy. You're ravenous. You could eat your arm off. You're not exactly the nicest person to be around either. All right. Your mood is affected. Your immune system's affected as well. It's like taking a set of rechargeable batteries out mid-charge every night. And when you do that, you'll get a bit of power out, but eventually they'll conk out. So be very, very mindful about your sleep. And again, if you find this a struggle, it's worth bearing in mind that you need to look here first before anything, really, before your stress levels as well. because this could be something which is easily fixed. So here's a little quick question and answer for you as well. So have a look at those. And now, for those with young kids, unfortunately, that's the reality of having young kids. But sure, that doesn't last forever, rest assured. I mean, my first one stepped after 12 weeks, but after that, it was my second one had his own agenda. And you just have to make do with what you do, and that's life. But if you can, then certainly address it, like with making sure the room's a cave, making sure you don't eat too close to sleep time, maybe 3 to 4 hours before you hit the hay, and then making sure you're eating the right stuff. Now, our nutrition then is fundamental, absolutely fundamental, and it's led me, when I was back coaching a rather simplistic model of fat loss, where it was a case of counting calories and making sure you just dogmatically ate this and ate that and avoided that food and avoided this food. It really was missing the bigger picture. And as you can see from the first 3 items on the 7 steps, how important they are. But with our nutrition, we have basically evolved into something which lives on dead food. There's no nutrition anymore, really. We find it very hard to get adequate levels of minerals and vitamins from our food, unless you're eating a diet which is abundant in vegetables and good quality produce, which you can do. It's not impossible. You just got to want to do it, because ultimately, and remember this, I think this is a key takeaway point, the more life in your food, the more life in you. So if you're eating foods which are making you sick and very, very tired, then it's because they just have no nutrition in them. They're processed, they're manufactured crudely, there are lots of additives and preservatives included in, which really are not conducive to, they're not feeding your cells. So why do diets ultimately fail? Because firstly, behaviorally, we bite off way more than we can chew. So think about it like this, right? You get New Year's Eve, or New Year's, right? You go and get you go to Easton's, you get your book, you get your diet book, the ones that's shouting at you the loudest, which ultimately they all say the same thing. They're all a crock of shit. But you bite off way more than you can chew. You read through it, and there's you do your best. You flick through it, and day 1 is do this, day 2 is do that, day 3 is do that, and and you have a set of rules to follow, and you have a few recipes to try. I mean, holy shit! I mean, how much change do you need to realistically do to actually succeed at a particular plan? Think about this. One recipe, well, you might have to change the way you shop. You might have to go and source all these fanciful ingredients they told you to go and get. Exercise. Some of you might not know how to exercise, but this program tells you have to exercise to succeed. What about your lifestyle? You're on the road, you're in the car. How are you going to make time for this fanciful nutrition strategies? So that's why it's very, very easy to actually bite off way more than you can chew, rather than trying to chase one rabbit at a time. And therefore we treat it as basically an all or nothing approach. We either succeed at it or we don't. And and over time, you get the diet book and you get the diet approach, and you go, this is not working for me. When in reality, it would have never worked for you in the first place, but you picked it up and cracked on. That's not your fault. It's just clever marketing, because everyone has the answer. So it then becomes your weight, and the whole diet approach becomes disaster, and the wheels start to fall off. And this disaster it's called life, when in fact life is a beautiful thing. We should be celebrating it. We should be throwing all at it with energy and motivation. But ultimately we frame this as, just life gets in the way, and it's disaster, and the wheels have fallen off. Go back to eating pizza and chips on weeknights. So it's a self-perpetuating disaster. But I mean, there's no wonder that we're tired and sick. I mean, you've only got to look at this so-called healthy product to look at what we call the ingredient deck. Now, there are some fanciful ingredients here, well, there aren't any really, because ultimately, if you can't pronounce something, if you turn it over and you can't pronounce something on the back of that, then, you shouldn't be eating it really. I mean, there's some absolutely horrific stuff on there. Aspergillus niger fermentation. That's a fungus. So yeah, lovely. No, I'm not someone who's kind of I do care about what goes in the body, but equally, I'm not immune to junk food. But I want to make sure that my junk food is as clean as I can. You know what I mean? It's you want to make sure that it's not going to have too many adverse reactions on my biochemistry, and if it does, it just won't eat it. But it's inevitable. You're going to eat some junk. I like the odd dessert every now and then, but I try and make it as clean as I can. But look, it's no wonder that we have no energy anymore, particularly when we're faced with all these chemicals that are added to our food to basically turn them into non-foods. So this is more like it. What's the best diet to eat? Well, one that's one step away from its original source. And it takes effort. You've got to change your environment. You've got to change your habits. And I say one habit at a time. One habit could be sourcing a local farmer's market. You go down there with the 20 euros and you pick up an absolute ton of grub for the week. The next habit then could be learn what to do with it. So if your idea of cooking, much like mine was burning water, then you need to learn how to cook and be able to knock up these little 5-10 minute meals. And maybe one habit that you do this week is to build a small repertoire of 5-10 minute meals, so that when faced with the decision, the critical decision really of do you do something good for your health or do you do something bad for your health, you know what the answer is because you have the skill set to answer it. You can knock up a quick omelette, you can knock up a quick salad and make it really tasty because you have the skill set to do that. So get some cooking lessons of thinking outside the box. Know and love your butcher. There's some great deals to be had down with your butcher. Ask and care about where your food comes from. Most butchers will have a locally sourced meat supply, more often not from their farm. I'm very, very lucky with the butcher I have. His brother has his farm, and the beef is grass-fed and the lamb is grass-fed. It's beautiful food, and you can really taste the difference between, say, supermarket meat and commercially reared meats and grass-fed, free range, without it costing the bomb. And again, where possible, there is an argument for organic, but I wouldn't get too bogged down with it. If you go onto the Environmental Working Group, they have a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Now, the Dirty Dozen, I would certainly buy organic. Number one is organic apples. I would always buy apples, particularly as my young fella absolutely devours them by the truckload. So I want to kind of lower his exposure. So it's a little simple thing. You don't need to buy, say an organic banana. That's totally unnecessary. And more often not, you don't. Faced with an organic apple versus an inorganic apple, then I wouldn't be losing sleep over it. But you just do your best, and you try and choose foods which are one step away from their original source. And then rest and recovery. If you're going to grab your body and put it through the mill, you need to make sure that you have adequate rest and recovery mechanisms in place. So how often do you go for a walk? How often do you take time to clear your head? How often do you decompress or just absent-minded thinking? And particularly if you are putting yourself through the mill, then you need to find ways of recovering. Now, whether that be stretching, swimming, foam rolling, the odd massage, ART treatments. I think you need to find a little repertoire really that you can turn to. Again, it doesn't take an awful lot, but it needs to be done on a consistent basis because, again, you're fighting up against this whole pot of stress that is being either self-inflicted or being inflicted from your environment. Okay, now before we turn to this section, let's just check the questions there. Okay, so our problems that we face, and I've found over the last 14 years, there's just way too much information. We get this level of paralysis by analysis, guys, and as there's so much information, we really do not know where to go and where to look and who to listen to. The social media, the internet's a beautiful thing, but holy cow, it can lead us to down some pretty dark alleyways where we look to transform our health and change our well-being. So where do you start? You want to tone X, Y, and Z, but not sure, where to look. Do you look in magazines and blogs and newspapers, and they all offer conflicting information. Again, you eat healthy, but still can't lose the weight, and you feel like shit. Why is that? Are you eating foods which are working against your biochemistry? You're eating healthy, but maybe the same things over and over again? These are all things you can identify and look at, and someone who's skilled in that will be able to tell you and give you the reasons. And you want to make transformation. You generally do. Your why is big enough, but life keeps getting in the way, and you get derailed far too easily. Your friends come over for a weekend, and suddenly that 2-day deviation deviates off the rails. But what if we could combine that into one easy solution for you that combines a blueprint for exactly what to eat, how much training works for you, and most importantly of all, accountability so that you stay on track? We would love to hear from you. So pop your details in the form below, and we will call you back. And we have so many different options which suit you. And my little dogs come up and say hi. Hey, Daisy. So you can pop your details in the form below, and we will give you a call back and find out if there's any options which can work for you. If not, then hopefully you've gained something from tonight. I'll just do a quick 5-minute Q&A, and then we'll be saying sayonara. Go and enjoy the rest of your evening. But firstly, thank you. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the time on this evening. We did so many other things, but you didn't. You came and listened, and therefore I really appreciate it. And thanks a million. So if you have any questions, just pop them in the box, and just turn off this section here, and we'll give them there. So I have two questions from my two questions from my email. John, what do you think is the best breakfast? Let me turn back on the on the camera. There we go. Coming back on the screen for my ugly mug. Okay, so the question was, what do I think is the best breakfast? Well, most people, general conventions, they start with cereal and toast and high carbohydrate breakfast. But what the recent research is showing, and what I found practically anecdotally, is that a breakfast that's high in protein and high in fats will have a positive effect not only in your brain chemistry, but how you perform up here, but also in your ability to utilize fat as its preferential source of energy for the day. So what that means is you become a fat burner rather than a fat storer. Now, I learned about this concept a good few years ago, and I was pretty skeptical because I come off the whole porridge for breakfast with a protein shake and a bit of fruit. And I said, well, no, I'll give it a go for a couple of weeks. And I did, to be fair. I bought into the idea, bought into the concept, and it completely changed. And I haven't looked back since. And my setup's probably about 10 years ago now. So protein and fat. So the best breakfast would be that. As examples would be, eggs fried in butter with some vegetables, maybe some onions. If you're in a bit of a rush, then I like kind of boiled eggs with smoked salmon. That could be 2-minute breakfast, so maybe a greens drink. And you could also have leftover tea, leftover dinner, bit of fish. I like liver and bacon with fried onions for breakfast. Normally it's sort of a weekender one, that one. But that's not to say I don't love making pancakes with the kids So 6 out of 7 breakfasts. I would have a kind of protein and fat-based breakfast, and then at the weekend normally I make up some pancakes and enjoy those with the kids because it's good fun, and I get them involved with the cooking process. So that would be my answer to the best breakfast. Now another question coming on the email as well. Okay, what is the difference? That's a great question. What is the difference between exercise and training? I've heard you go on about this a good bit. Well, the difference between exercise and training is exercise is kind of a daily dose of exercise. You should be taking exercise every day, and it's very much low level intensity exercise. It's something you can just do. Don't have to get changed. No visits to the gym. So it could be a walk. It could be play sport. It's something that gets a little bit of a sweat on. Training is a little bit more purposeful, a little bit more intense. I mean, you're looking to stress the body so that it breaks down and it rebounds and you improve as a result of that. So to me, training has more of a goal, has more of a purpose, has a lot more intensity, is more of a stressor on the body, whereas exercise is a lot softer, more fun. Well, I was going to say more fun. That's probably not a great qualifying, probably not a great definition. But exercise is a little bit easier to fit into your day and fit into your lifestyle without too much of a stress. Most people, when they're starting out on the health and fitness journey, need to exercise. A lot can be achieved with things like walking and just basic cardio, playing a bit of sport, getting more active, taking baby steps, and not parking the car on the checkout, park it away from the door, and so forth. So you can do little things like that. But then ultimately you want to progress to being in a position where you're training. So that's a very good question. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, yep. Okay, where can I get cooking as well? There's only one place I go for that. Stevie G, Red Chef Cookery. Look him up online. He is the man. I've learned so much off him, and we often have him up in Maynooth for workshops. And he's fantastic in teaching the basics of skill and how to pimp up the most basic of meals. So check him out, redchefcookery.net. He's in the Maynooth area, but I'm pretty sure if you go on Google, you can look up any other cooking schools and they'd serve you pretty well. But it's well worth the investment. I'd say probably for 30-40 quid, you could probably dramatically transform your health and make healthy eating less intimidating. Okay, what do you think of gluten-free? That, again, a great question. The gluten intolerances, the only way really of proving that you are gluten intolerant is a blood test. It's an IgG test that you need to run. Now, I've run a good few of them in my time, and most, if not everyone, comes back with some degree of intolerance, some more severe than others. You can have a very, very large degree of gluten intolerance, or you can have a mild degree of gluten intolerance. The jury's out on the long-term effects of it. People are quoting things like it forms a plaque on your brain and interferes with cognitive enhancements and gut health and bombards your gut membrane. But there's plenty of books on it as well. But I found that if you're eating it very regularly, which it's very easy to do, i.e. breakfast, lunch and dinner. Think about it. You have cereal for breakfast, maybe toast, sandwich for lunch, maybe have a bowl of pasta in the evening, all containing wheat, and you do that, you repeat that, then you're overexposing yourself to a food item. And ultimately, like anything, it's going to bite you on the arse, literally. It's like you eat chicken all the time or eggs all the time. You can develop an intolerance to it. Most people feel better when they come completely off gluten. I think it's more the fact that they're having a break from it. But ultimately, you're looking at just giving yourself a break from it, and then reintroducing and seeing what your symptoms are like. And if you need more information on that blood test, just ping me an email. I'll point you in the right direction. But an elimination test normally does it, and a reintroduction test will determine kind of how you respond to it. If you're getting gas, headaches, can't concentrate quite well, then maybe it's not for you. But that's the immediate response. You can also get a delayed reaction to gluten as well, which could be anywhere from weeks to months down the line. So it's very, very hard to tell. That's why I say if you are that serious about it, go and get a blood test, and that'll tell you. If you're intolerant to it, avoid it. But most gluten-free products as well on the market are absolutely rammed with sugar, because they haven't caught on to the fact that using potato flour and rice flour as a substitute for gluten is not the most tastiest of ingredients. But look, it's a start. It's a start somewhere. You can't be perfect all the time. But I don't really get, if I have some gluten, if I have a slice of if I have bread somewhere, or if I have wheat pasta by accident, I don't normally choose it. But if it's there in a dish, my mother's put it in front of my place, I'm not going to turn my nose at it. But I don't normally get any negative reactions, because I went for a good period of time off it and then reintroduce it. But I certainly don't lose sleep if I do eat it, but it's very, very rare. Okay, so look, guys, if you are interested in finding out more, pop your name in the form below on the webinar page, and we'll give you a call back, and we'll see how we can help you with any of our services that we have. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing more of these. Enjoy doing them. I've got a ton of information I need to share with you all, and hopefully you've got some benefits. If you've enjoyed it, please go. I mean, bearing in mind it's 8 o'clock, and I appreciate your time. But if you do me a really small favor, I've given you tons of useful information tonight. Just go onto our Facebook page and over at Sphere, and just give us a little review, a bit of feedback. That'll be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. If you do that now, whilst it's top of your mind, that would be incredible, and I'd really, really appreciate it. That would give me the impetus then to do more of this and give you guys more information going forward. So look, have a great night. I'm going to see where the kids are, and so put them to bed, hopefully, if they're not running hoops around the Queen. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon. So take care. Bye.